Good morning, student. Today we will study the submandibular gland. This submandibular gland, it is present in the submandibular region. Before going to the topic, we will see this submandibular region. This submandibular region, it is present between the two bones. On the superior side, we have this mandible and the hyoid bone. The submandibular region, it includes the deeper structures which are present in the area between the mandible and the hyoid bone, including the floor of mouth and the root of the tongue. This submandibular region, it contains suprahyoid muscles. So these are the suprahyoid muscles. They are present in this region. It also contains two important glands. These are the submandibular gland, and at this floor we have the sublingual salivary gland. Then it also contains one ganglion. It is called as the submandibular ganglion. This region, it also contains one nerve. It is called as the chorda tympani nerve. This chorda tympani, it is a branch of this facial nerve which carries the taste sensation from the anterior two-third part of the tongue, except from the circumvallate papillae. The taste from the circumvallate papillae, it is carried by the glossopharyngeal nerve. So this region, it contains the suprahyoid muscle, and these suprahyoid muscles, they are like this: the digastric muscle, then we have stylohyoid muscle. On the posterior side we have this stylohyoid, then the posterior belly and anterior belly of the digastric, then mylohyoid muscle, the geniohyoid, the hyoglossus, and the genioglossus muscle. Other muscles we will see in another diagram. In this another diagram we will see the genioglossus muscle, this is the hyoglossus, and this is the styloglossus muscle present in this submandibular region. This region, it contains one ganglion. It is the submandibular ganglion. So these are the structures they are present in the submandibular region. Now we'll see this gland under the following headings. The submandibular gland, it is studied. First we'll see the introduction, then we'll see the features of the gland. Then this gland, it has two parts, the superficial and the deep part. Then we'll study about the blood supply and lymphatic drainage of the gland, nerve supply, and then submandibular duct, or it is also called as the Wharton's duct. And lastly, we'll see the clinical anatomy of this gland. Just now we have seen this region. It is present between the mandible and the hyoid bone. It contains submandibular and sublingual gland, the suprahyoid muscles, submandibular ganglion, and the lingual artery. Along with these other structures they are present in this region, they are lingual and hypoglossal nerves and the facial artery. The large paired salivary glands are parotid, submandibular, and sublingual glands. This submandibular gland is usually just palpable, and it has large superficial part and the small deep process. In features, the submandibular gland is a large salivary gland. It is situated in anterior part of this digastric triangle. It is mixed salivary gland. It appears as a walnut and its weight about 10 to 20 gram. In location partly below and partly deep to the body of the mandible. It has, just now we have seen, it has large superficial part and the small deep part, both continuous around the posterior border of the mylohyoid muscle. In this diagram we can see this is the mylohyoid muscle, this is the posterior border of the mylohyoid which divides this gland into the large superficial part and the small deep part. Then what are the coverings they are present over the gland? The gland is partly enclosed between the two layers of deep cervical fascia. This deep cervical fascia, it split to enclose this gland. This gland, it has this superficial part, it has three surfaces: the inferior surface, the lateral surface, and the medial surface. So inferior and the medial surface of the gland, they are covered by the deep and superficial lamina of deep cervical fascia. This deep lamina on the superior side, it is attached to the mylohyoid line which is present on the medial aspect of the mandible, and then this superficial lamina, it is attached to the base of the mandible. So these are the coverings over the submandibular gland. Then we'll see in detail about the superficial and deep part. The two parts are continuous with each other, forming a U-shaped around the posterior border of mylohyoid muscle. The body of the gland is in and inferior to the digastric triangle and also partly under the cover of the mandible. It has three surfaces. Just now we have seen these surfaces: the inferior surface, lateral surface, and the medial surface. The inferior surface, it is covered by the skin and platysma. The lateral surface, it is related to the medial surface of the mandible, and medial surface, it is related to the muscles such as mylohyoid, hyoglossus, and the digastric muscle. Then we will see relations of superficial part. The inferior surface, it is covered by the skin, platysma, cervical branch of facial nerve, the deep fascia, the facial vein, submandibular lymph node. The lateral surface, it is related to the submandibular fossa, insertion of medial pterygoid, and the facial artery. This medial surface, for the study purpose, it is again divided into the anterior part, middle part, and the posterior part. This anterior part, it is related to the mylohyoid muscle, the submental branch of the facial artery, the mylohyoid nerve, and vessels. Then this middle part, it is related to the hyoglossus, styloglossus, lingual artery, and the 12th nerve. Then the posterior part, it is related to the stylohyoid muscle as well as to the styloglossus muscle and 9th nerve. This deep process, which is small in size and lies between the mylohyoid and the hyoglossus muscle. In this diagram, we can see this is the deep process which is present between the mylohyoid on the lateral side, and medially we have this hyoglossus muscle. Then above the deep process, we have lingual nerve and submandibular ganglion. In this diagram, we have seen this is the deep process or deep part of the submandibular gland. Superiorly, it is related to the submandibular ganglion, and this is the lingual nerve. On the inferior side, it is related to this hypoglossal nerve with vena comitant. Then we have the blood supply of submandibular gland. Blood supply to the submandibular gland, it is through the submental arteries, which are the branches of the facial artery, which is branch of the external carotid artery. Venous drainage is through the submental veins, which drain into the facial vein and then to the internal jugular vein. Lymph passes to the submandibular lymph nodes. In this diagram, we can see the facial artery which forms the groove-like structure, groove on the posterior aspect of the submandibular gland. Then in innervation, the submandibular gland, it receives autonomic innervation through the parasympathetic and sympathetic fibers, which directly and indirectly regulate the salivary secretions respectively. The parasympathetic this parasympathetic innervation, it originates from the superior salivary nucleus through the presynaptic fibers, which travels via the chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve. This chorda tympani then unifies with the lingual branch of mandibular nerve before synapting at the submandibular ganglion and suspending it by the two nerve filaments. The postganglionic innervation consists of secretomotor fibers, which directly induce the gland to produce secretions, and vasodilator fibers, which accompanies the artery to increase the blood supply to the gland. Increased parasympathetic drive, it promotes the saliva secretion. So this part, it is very important. When there is increased parasympathetic drive, it promotes the saliva secretion. In sympathetic part, the sympathetic innervation, it originates from the superior cervical ganglion, where the postsynaptic vasoconstrictive fibers travels as a plexus on the internal and external carotid artery, then facial artery, and finally the submental artery to enter the gland. Increase the sympathetic drive, it reduces the glandular blood flow through the vasoconstriction and decreases the volume of salivary secretion, resulting in a more mucus and enzyme rich saliva. we can see this chorda tympani, it join with this lingual branch of this mandibular nerve, and then it relates into the submandibular ganglion. Then postganglionic fibers it supplied to this submandibular and sublingual gland. This is secretomotor pathway. We can see the sensation there come, they arises from the superior salivary nucleus, they travels to the nucleus intermedius, then facial nerve, then chorda tympani. This chorda tympani is joined with the lingual nerve, the branch of the mandibular nerve. Then we have the submandibular ganglion. Into the submandibular ganglion this chorda tympani relays, then the postganglionic fibers, they begins from the submandibular ganglion, and then they supply to the submandibular and sublingual gland like this. In this diagram also we can see the course of the secretomotor fibers as well as the taste sensation which are carried by this chorda tympani nerve. Then we have this submandibular duct, or it is also called as the Wharton's duct. It is thin walled and it is about 5 cm long. It emerges at the anterior end of the deep part of the gland and runs upward and forwards on the hypoglossus between the hypoglossal and the lingual nerve. At the anterior border of the hypoglossus, the duct is crossed by the lingual nerve. The submandibular duct, it opens by 1 to 3 orifice into the oral cavity on the sublingual papillae at the side of frenulum linguae. In this diagram we can see the opening of the submandibular or the Wharton's duct. This is the frenulum of the tongue. This is the submandibular duct which arises from the anterior aspect of the deep process of this submandibular gland. In clinical anatomy of the submandibular gland, the calculus formation, it is a tense swelling below the body of mandible which is greatest during the meal and is reduced in size or absent between the meals. This is the diagnostic of the case. Clinically, by examination of floor of mouth, it reveals absence of ejection of the saliva from the orifice of the duct, plus the stone can be palpated in the duct which lies below millimeter of the floor of the mouth. During operation, we should remember that the duct is crossed by the lingual nerve. So these are the things they are present in the submandibular gland. We have seen its feature, then we have seen the different parts of the submandibular gland and its relation. Then we have seen the blood supply of this gland, the nerve innervation, it is very important in this case. Then we have seen the duct, it is called as the submandibular duct or the Wharton's duct, and the important clinical aspect related to the duct, it is the calculus formation in this duct. So thank you. It was all about this submandibular gland.